such a move. We're joined now by Congressman Tom Graves, a Republican from the state of Georgia. On set with us is our guest host for the hour, CEO of Savills, John Lyons. Congressman, we appreciate your time this morning. What do you make of this reversal in terms of the number of people who believe that the debt ceiling should not be raised?
Well, I mean, one thing we do know is that the plan we passed yesterday has just broad support all across the nation. A historic vote last night in the House of Representatives that took a very bold step and said, look, we've got to cut the deficit now. We need to cap the federal government and the size of the federal government in the future. And then let's have a balanced budget like 49 of the 50 states. And a historic vote last night, and I think as the American people see this develop, the pressure will be put on the Senate, and it's the only plan out there, the only plan that's gotten 218 votes in the House. In fact, it was 234 votes. It was a bipartisan vote in the House, so I think that's the plan to move forward with, and I look forward to seeing the Senate's response to it.
Congressman, without trying to be controversial, I'm not quite sure that anybody expects this to pass, and I do think that there's a lot of partisanship on both sides of the floor in the House and the Senate. So putting that aside, though, but as a citizen and also as a businessman that deals with foreigners who are looking to make investments into this country, and they basically say, we're not sure that you're able to either raise taxes or cut spending or to get something done that's going to be constructive. And the longer we wait, the more difficult it becomes because the risk of default looms. That's going to increase interest rates and cause a more expensive business environment. And foreigners, frankly, are concerned about putting assets into the states. What do you think about that, and how do we get around this?
Well, we have, $14 trillion in debt. We have deficit spending that just continues unraveling each and every day in Washington, and we've got to make structural changes, and that's what this proposal does. And what you see is the spirit of the freshman class and the message that was sent with them last November, and that's we've got to get this under control. We can't keep doing what we've always been doing. And in Washington, there's a lot of, you hear the word compromise, but compromise is what's gotten us into this mess already, and we've got to move forward with bold plans that will get us out of the jam we're in, and this can do it. I mean, who could object to a balanced budget in the federal government? The only one that I've seen so far is the president and the Democrats, and I don't know why they would do that, because that's the only thing that's fiscally sound and responsible, and it sends a very strong message to the markets. I mean, that there's stability and consistency in the marketplace if you know that's going to occur, and we're not going to do this each and every year, and that's the problem. Every year we're in the same bind, raising the debt limit. Why is there a debt limit in the first place? To keep us in bounds, but every year it seems to get raised. So let's bring consistency to the marketplace by balanced budget federal government.
Congressman, you're saying compromise got us into this in the first place. Surely spending is high compared to historical norms, but taxes are historically low compared to what we've had historically. So what's wrong with compromise?
Well, I wouldn't say we're in this jam because taxes are too low. It's because spending is too much. And you ask the business community about the tax environment out there and the regulatory environment, which in itself is a tax on businesses. We've got to lower that. We've got to bring consistency to the marketplace so they know what the rules are. But right now we know the president, we know there's a lot of things out there that are a lot of folks that want to raise taxes now. That's not going to create jobs. I mean, what new tax has ever created a job in the private sector? It's always been in the public sector. We need the private sector expansion today in order to get out of the economic problems we have. So let's get the small business owners, the entrepreneurs, the risk takers, get them fired back up and get this engine moving again.
Congressman, it's interesting. I don't know whether you saw this. Moody's this week said the way to remove the event risk at the moment would be just to get rid of the debt ceiling, and then you guys can, come out with some other plans that you can fight during elections. And maybe we should just get rid of the debt ceiling, then we don't have this yearly event risk. And that was Moody's, right? The ratings agencies are concerned about, the guys that are concerned about having to downgrade U.S. debt.
Yeah, I don't think you need to remove the debt limit. We need to lower the debt limit. That might be the right way to move. But you think about some of Moody's statements and some of the others out there, it's not because they're not I guess talking about lowering our credit rating because the debt limit is not going to be raised is because there is no plan to move out of the debt mess that we have into a sustainable future, in essence, that's out there, the plan that's being proposed. And that's what we did in the House of Representatives. We provided a very stable plan that has short-term, medium-term, and long-term objectives involved with it. But I can assure you, if we just raise the debt limit without making structural reforms, we would still have a downgrading by Moody's or others as well, because it's not showing that we're willing to deal with the problem we have, and it is out-of-control debt.
Congressman, you made a statement about that we want to have a pro-business environment, and one of the taxes that I know that I believe you support, and certainly your constituency does, which is the carried interest tax. As a real estate professional, I believe that this tax is really being aimed at what you saw as excessive profits from the hedge fund industry. But this has a very, very negative effect with regard to the real estate industry. People don't want to make long-term investments such as development. And I think as a society and as a businessman, we want to invest and have new construction, development, and long-term investments made into this sector, certainly job producing as well. So how do we somehow, if you want, apply this to one sector, but to look at the other industries that are affected negatively exactly by the carried interest tax?
Yeah, and what you're addressing is what's happened so much, and that's the unintended consequences of picking winners and losers in the marketplace. And Washington should not be in the business of picking winners and losers. Instead, we should be encouraging economic development and economic growth by the lowering of tax rates and broadening the base. I mean, that's what the Republicans have been standing for. But when you get the federal government in there trying to manipulate the marketplace and direct an outcome, there's always these unintended consequences. So you're absolutely right. We need to step back, move out of the way, and allow the business owners and the job creators to do what they do best, and that's invest capital, expand their businesses, and hire Americans.
Congressman, we appreciate your time this morning. Congressman Tom Graves, a Republican from the fine state of Georgia. Thank you so much, sir. And coming up